Welcome to the chapter 18, which is all about amines and amides. In the first few topics of this chapter, amines will be discussed. Did you know that the indigo dye that is used in coloring fabrics, cottons, and wools are actually coming from a plant called Indigofera tinctoria? So that's the scientific name of this plant. Um, so the compound that is give this color is actually an amine. So this is a natural compound. So this is being extracted from these natural plants. So in this section, we will learn more about amines, how to name the amines according to the IUPAC rules and the common names, and how to draw the condensed structural and line angle formulas, and how to classify or categorize these amines as primary, secondary, or tertiary. Okay, first we'll see what are amines. Now these amines are derivatives of ammonia. So we all know about ammonia molecule. Ammonia is the nitrogen bonded to 3 hydrogen atoms. So it has a pyramid shape with a long pair of electrons on the nitrogen atom. Now, the amines are derived from ammonia. What does it mean? So, just by replacing this hydrogen, one no more than one hydrogen atom, it can be 2 hydrogen atoms or 3 hydrogen atoms, are being replaced by alkyl or aromatic groups. So, in this particular molecule, so this is a tertiary amine. We'll see the categories later. Now you can see the 3 hydrogen atoms are being replaced by these alkyl groups, 2 methyl groups and 1 propyl group. And in this particular amine, just 2 hydrogens are being replaced by a methyl group and an ethyl group. And in this particular amine, so this is an aromatic amine called aniline. Now, in this aniline, you can see just 1 hydrogen atom has been replaced by an aromatic group or benzene ring to form the aniline. So that's why we are saying all the amines are derivatives of ammonia. Okay, now we will see how to name amines according to the IUPAC rules. So I have listed down the steps on how to start. Now, when you are given an amine, any type of amine, the first thing you should do is to determine the longest carbon chain which is bonded to the amine group. Now, I have 2 examples here. So, you can see in this particular example, there is one methyl group attached to an amine group, NH2 group. Now, the longest carbon chain is just 1 carbon atom. So, when you're naming, you need to start with alkane name. So that's what we do for any other in the previous IUPAC names for any other compounds. Start with the alkane name. Now, the alkane with 1 carbon atom is named as methane. So you have to start with the methane name. And step 3, just replace the E, the last letter E, in this name with the word amine. So by replacing A, you get methanamine. We call this as methanamine. Just like that, the amine with 2 carbon atoms are named, the amine with 2 carbon atoms is named as ethanamine. Just by replacing the letter E in ethane with amine. So those are the IUPAC names, and the common name is very simple. We just say it's methylamine. So this is the methyl group and this is the amine, methylamine, no spaces. And this one is ethyl group. There's an ethyl group and an amine group. So we just simply say ethylamine. So we are focusing on here IUPAC names. So the IUPAC rules are You don't have to number the carbon chains when you have one carbon or two carbon atoms. You can just say methanamine, ethanamine. We don't say one methanamine or one dash ethanamine. Just say methanamine or ethanamine. But when the carbon atoms are increasing, starting from three carbon atoms, you have to number the carbon chain, the longest carbon chain, and then always need to start with the carbon atom that is attached or the closest to the amine group. So in this example here, the amine group is attached to this carbon, so it is numbered as 1. And there are three carbon atoms. So when you naming the molecule, you need to say 1 dash propanamine, because start with propane, it's propanamine, since amine group is attached, and then the amine group is attached to carbon 1, so you need to say 1 dash propanamine. In this example here, the amine group is attached to the second carbon, so it's 2 propanamine. In this particular example, now the amine group is attached to the second carbon atom. So in this case, how do you start numbering? You need to start numbering by giving the lowest number possible for the carbon atom which is attached to the amine group. So that's why we start from this end, not this end. Okay, so the name would be 2-butanamine, since there are 4 carbon atoms. Okay, now this particular example here, it has another substituent, a methyl group. A methyl group is attached to one carbon and the amine group is attached to another carbon. Now, when you're numbering again, you need to give the priority for the amine group to give the lowest number possible for the carbon atom that is attached to the amine group. So you start numbering from the carbon atom attached to the NH2 group, and then you can just give the IUPAC names following the other rules with the substituents. So the methyl group is attached to the third carbon, so you start with 3-methyl-1-butanamine. So that's the IUPAC name. Okay. And so far we just discussed the amines where only one alkyl group was attached to the nitrogen atom. And there are cases that there can be 2 alkyl groups or 3 alkyl groups are attached to the nitrogen atom. In that cases, the IUPAC names are going to be a little bit different. So if there is an alkyl group attached to the nitrogen atom, except the longest chain, then you have to use the prefix capital N or uppercase N, and then the alkyl name has to be given following the N dash. N dash. So in this example here, first you need to determine what is the longest carbon chain. The longest carbon chain has to be determined first. So in this particular example, there are 2 carbon atoms in the longest carbon chain, and this is going to be this additional alkyl group attached to the nitrogen atom. So you always start naming. As always, you can start naming. So this is 2 carbon atoms, so it should be ethanamine. You don't number the carbon chain because it's just 2 carbon atoms. You start with ethanamine, and then in front of the name, you need to give this N, capital N, then dash. This alkyl group's name is methyl, so N dash methyl ethanamine. So that's how you name with additional alkyl group substituents. Additional alkyl groups attached to the nitrogen atom. If there are 2 such alkyl groups, in addition to the alkyl group attached to the nitrogen, the longest chain, then you need to give this n comma n two times, like two n's, n comma n dash. So these are both are the same groups. So you use the prefix dimethyl. Now you need to give the position of the amine group in the longest carbon chain. So this is the position 1 dash propanamine. N comma N dash dimethyl dash 1 dash propanamine. Okay, and in this example, so the longest carbon chain has to be determined first. So the nitrogen atom attached longest carbon chain is this one. And then you need to start numbering because in the longest carbon chain you have more than 2 carbon atoms. When you're numbering, you need to always you need to give the lowest number possible to the carbon atom attached to nitrogen. So I'm going to start numbering from this end. So when I'm starting numbering, I need to determine the longest carbon chain. I did that and I already numbered the carbon chain. Now what is the alkane name for this particular chain? So this has 5 carbon atoms, so the alkane name is pentane. Now since this is an amine, I would start with pentanamine. Pentanamine comes like that, and then to which carbon atom in the pentanamine chain this nitrogen is attached to the carbon 2. So I would say it's 2-pentanamine. Now there are 2 other alkyl groups attached to the nitrogen atom. I need to specify them in my name. One is a methyl group and the other one is an ethyl group. Now which one to start first? Do I say N-methyl dash N-dash ethyl or N-ethyl or an N-methyl? So that determines according to the alphabetical order. So the name ethyl comes first according to the alphabetical order. So N-ethyl dash N-methyl. That's how I specify the 2 alkyl groups attached to the nitrogen atom, and then dash 2-pentanamine. So the beauty of these IUPAC names are that just by looking at an IUPAC name, you can draw the structure, and there's only one structure possible for a given name. So the names are unique. So that's why we are following these rules as exactly as it is, to give more details, or to give all the details needed to draw the structure. The letter N is used to specify these alkyl groups are attached to the nitrogen atom. Now we will do a learning check on how to write the IUPAC name for the following given amine. Now I want you to try this by yourself and then check your answer. Okay, so what should be the first step? The first step is to determine the longest carbon chain and then number the carbon chain. So since this has more than 2 carbon atoms, I would number it in this way. So this is the longest carbon chain. And also pay attention, there is a methyl group attached to the nitrogen atom as well. So we will see how to include all the IUPAC rules to get the correct name. Now the step 1, name the longest carbon chain bonded to the nitrogen atom. So since this contains 4 carbon atoms, the alkane name is butane. So you just derive the amine name as butanamine. Butanamine, and then you need to number the carbon chain. So since the nitrogen atom is attached to carbon 1, it should be 1-butanamine. And step 3, there is a methyl group. Now methyl group has to be specified. by giving the prefix capital N dash methyl dash 1-butenamine. So that's the correct IUPAC name. And common names of amines. In general, like common names are used when an alkyl groups are not branched. We can simply give these common names for these simple amines where you see like alkyl groups or alkyl groups attached directly to the nitrogen atom, and the chains are alkyl groups are not branched. So the first one is, you can simply say ethylamine because this group is an ethyl group, ethylamine. And the second one, there are two methyl groups attached to the nitrogen atom, so we can say dimethylamine. In this one, you have two methyl groups and one ethyl group. Now, the common name is given, and you need to list down ethyls and methyls, and according to the alphabetical order, you start with ethyl dimethylamine, just like that. So those are the common names of amines. When an amine group is attached to the benzene ring, we named it as aniline. Aniline is accepted according to the IUPAC rule, so you can just name this compound as aniline. And when there are substituents attached to an aniline, you can just give the name by numbering the benzene ring. So in this example, since the bromine atom is attached to the fourth carbon atom in the ring, it says 4-bromoaniline. And also, if there is an alkyl group connected to the nitrogen atom, then as always, we use the prefix capital N, and since it's a methyl group, it says N-methyl-aniline. And aniline is used as a dye, and it gives colors to wool, cotton, and silk fibers. So this actually has been extracted from the natural organic compounds in earlier, and now they are synthetic dyes. Okay, now we'll see how to classify the amines just by looking at the structure. Now we can classify amines as primary, secondary, and tertiary. So this classification is all based on how these substituents or how the alkyl groups are attached to the nitrogen atom. Now the classification is very simple. You just have to look at the nitrogen atom of the amine. So just look at the nitrogen atom and check how many carbons are connected to the nitrogen atom. Okay, so if there is only one carbon atom attached to the nitrogen atom, then we can say it's a primary amine. And if there are two carbon atoms connected to the nitrogen atom, then it is given as a secondary amine. So if there are two carbons, and if there are three carbons are connected to the nitrogen atom, it is given as a tertiary amine, right? So that's the easiest way to determine whether this is a primary, secondary, or tertiary amine. You can see this NH2 in primary amine and NH in secondary amine, and there are no hydrogen atoms in tertiary amines. That's another characteristic you can see in primary, secondary, and tertiary amines. Okay, now we will do a learning check. Give the common name for each amine and classify it as primary, secondary, or tertiary. The common name, as I mentioned earlier, you can just look at what is the alkyl group attached to the nitrogen atom. In this case, it's a propyl group. So you can say it's a propylamine. Propylamine. And what is the category? Is it a primary, secondary, or tertiary? Now, look at this nitrogen atom. Now, there's only one carbon atom connected to this nitrogen atom. So, it should be a primary amine. Now in the question B, in this structure, what is the common name? So there are two methyl groups and one ethyl group. So the common name would be ethyl dimethyl amine. We need to say ethyl and then dimethyl amine. Now, what is the category of this compound? Is it a primary, secondary, or tertiary amine? Now, this is the nitrogen atom. Now, check how many carbons are connected to this nitrogen atom. So, this is one carbon and another carbon and another carbon. So, there are three carbon atoms connected to the nitrogen atom. So, it's a tertiary amine. So, that's how you figure out the common names and the category or classification as primary, secondary, or tertiary.